The RH133 type turbocharger consists essentially of a mixed-flow turbine and a radial flow compressor, assembled as a single unit. The exhaust gas from the engine flows through the turbine housing to the turbine wheel and provides the rotating torque to the turbine shaft. The compressor wheel fitted to the turbine shaft receives the rotating torque, induces air through the silencer, and delivers it to the cylinders after compression. Seal plate and seal ring are provided so that air and oil may not leak. Since thrust force is constantly applied to the turbine shaft, the thrust bearing is provided to prevent move of the shaft due to thrust force. A floating type is employed in comparison with the ordinary fixed type. A dual oil film is formed on the internal and external faces of the bearing. The bearing bush rotates, and the sliding speed of each bearing face is lower than the turbine shaft speed, resulting in an increase of dynamic stabilization. Before starting the engine, operate lube oil priming pump and circulate lube oil in the turbocharger. Set lube oil pressure between 0.05 and 0.1 megapascal. Circulate cooling water in the engine and confirm drain from air vent. Check for leakage from exhaust pipes, air pipes, lube oil pipes, and cooling water pipes. Be sure lube oil pressure of the turbocharger is set between 0.2 and 0.5 megapascal. Record all the indicator values, especially pressure and temperature of boost air and exhaust gas at turbocharger inlet and outlet are the first concern, as they affect performance of the turbocharger much. Before stopping the engine, start priming pump and operate the pump for more than 15 minutes to cool down. As lube oil of the turbocharger and the engine is common, periodically conduct sampling of lube oil and clean lube oil filter or replace it. The lube oil must have the quality according to the engine builder's manual. Cooling water to the turbocharger is supplied from the engine. Open drain cock of air inlet duct. Press the syringe and inject all the cleaning liquid within 4 to 10 seconds. In 3 to 5 minutes after infusing the cleaning liquid, inject the same amount of fresh water. If the pressure of intake air and the temperature of exhaust gas don't change before and after the water washing, perform the water washing again in 10 minutes. If there is no effect of the repeated washing, conduct overhaul. Sometimes, turbine blades get damages because of carbon accumulation. It's efficient to conduct water washing as countermeasure to reduce the accumulation. So perform water washing of the turbine blades following steps. Carry out the water washing following steps. Connect gauge board with rubber hose. Connect water feed hose with the gauge board. Do not use cooling water of the engine as cleaning liquid because it contains some additives and may cause bad effects on the turbocharger. Open the pressure adjusting valve to lead water to nozzle and hose and adjust the pressure to about 0.05 megapascal at pressure gauge. Open the drain cock. Loosen lock nut and fully open the nozzle. Adjust the pressure adjusting valve between 0.05 and 0.08 megapascal at the pressure gauge. During injecting water, always check for excess of the water and clogging of the drain pipe with peeled deposits. During the water washing, if there is abnormal sound from the turbocharger, decrease water pressure till the sound stops or stop the water washing. Continue injecting water for 5 to 7 minutes. Even if there is no drainage, do not continue injecting water for more than 7 minutes. When finishing injection of water, close the nozzle. Be sure there is no drainage and close the drain cock. After the washing, remove the hose. After the water washing, operate the engine with the same or higher load for more than 10 minutes. Conduct the water washing every 250 hours. If the turbocharger gets more dirt, shorten the washing interval. Adjust and keep the engine load so as to maintain the exhaust gas temperature at the turbocharger inlet to be between 300 and 350 degrees centigrade. Keep the condition for about 20 minutes and then carry out the water washing. To dry the turbocharger surely after the washing, keep operating the engine with the load. Remove silencer and rotate compressor wheel by hand. If the wheel rotates lightly, turbine shaft is in good condition. If the wheel doesn't rotate smoothly or there is abnormal sound, it's necessary to conduct inspection. Measure axial and radial clearance of turbine shaft. Be sure the measured values are within allowable limits. Regarding assembly and disassembly of turbine shaft, refer to 4,800 hours inspection. At first, prepare tools, consumption spare parts, grease, and cleaner. Before dismantling the turbocharger, wear a helmet, earplugs, gloves, and safety shoes. Prepare tools for dismantling. Cool down the engine sufficiently. Stop lube oil priming pump and drain jacket cooling water. Mark match marks on exhaust outlet, boost air inlet, and turbine side foot. Remove filling pipe for blower washing. Remove silencer. Rotate turbine rotor by hand and check rotation condition. Remove anti-splashing tape. Remove lube oil pipes. Cover lube oil inlet with tape. Remove inlet pipes for cooling water. Cover cooling water inlet with tape. Remove lube oil outlet pipe and cover the outlet with tape. Remove heat insulation around the casing. Remove outlet pipes for cooling water. Remove thermometer at exhaust inlet. Remove heat insulation around exhaust inlet pipe. Remove bolts fixing exhaust inlet pipe. Remove bolts fixing boost air outlet pipe. Remove bolts fixing exhaust outlet pipe. Remove bolts fixing the turbocharger. Suspend the turbocharger with wire rope. Take care not to damage parts around the turbocharger and place the turbocharger on a work table. Prepare tools for disassembly. Fix the turbocharger on the work table. Measure clearance between turbine impeller and turbine housing. Use 2 thickness gauges at once and measure clearances in vertical and horizontal direction. Record the measured values on the prescribed form. Before removing compressor housing, mark a match mark. Stand compressor housing. Remove bolts and compressor side clamps. Suspend compressor housing with wire rope. Remove compressor housing carefully so as not to damage compressor impeller. If it's hard to remove compressor housing, tap it with a plastic hammer. After that, remove O-ring fitting and outside circumference of bearing housing. Do not remove diffuser except the case of inspection or replacement. Fix the turbocharger on the work table. Measure axial clearance with a dial gauge. Hold both ends of rotor shaft so as not to rotate. Move the shaft from side to side and measure axial clearance. Record the measured value on the prescribed form. Set the dial gauge again to measure radial clearance. Hold both ends of rotor shaft and move the shaft upward and downward. Check match marks on compressor impeller and shaft end hexagon nut. Fit up turbine housing with turbine rotor locking tool. Loosen shaft end hexagon nut on compressor side. As the nut is left-hand screw, turn the nut clockwise to loosen. But at this moment, do not remove the nut completely. Mark match marks on turbine housing and bearing housing. Place turbine housing downward on the work table. Remove bolts and turbine side clamps. Lift bearing housing up to 5 mm from the work table by using 2 wire ropes. In case the housing doesn't turn, tap the housing with a plastic hammer. Some bolts can't be removed as flanges of the housing interfere with the bolts. In that case, firstly turn the housing to where the housing doesn't interfere, and then remove the nuts. Extract turbine housing carefully. After removing turbine housing, remove metal seal gasket. Fix bearing housing with vise, putting wood into contact faces. In this case, placing the flange on the vise makes bearing housing more stable. Turn shaft end hexagon nut clockwise and remove it. Hold turbine rotor by hand and remove compressor impeller. If it's hard to remove compressor impeller, heat the impeller with an industrial dryer or other device, and then it's easier to remove. But do not heat the impeller up to more than 100 degrees Celsius. Do not heat too much. Do not strike compressor impeller with a hammer. If you do so, the impeller is bent, and the bend caused serious accidents. Remove bolts. Use the 2 remove bolts as jack bolt. Jack up seal plate by screwing the bolts and extract the plate. Remove seal plate O-ring. Remove sealing bush from seal plate. Check movement of seal ring. Remove seal ring by using seal ring pliers. Remove thrust collar. Mark an identification mark on the collar. To extract thrust bearing, use 2 bolts which were removed from seal plate. Remove thrust bearing. Remove distance piece. Remove thrust collar on turbine side. Mark an identification mark on the collar. Wrap the turbine shaft end with tape to protect floating journal bearing and thread. Remove turbine shaft carefully, not to damage floating journal bearing. Check the turbine shaft. Check movement of seal ring. Remove inner seal ring by using sealing pliers. Remove heat shield. If it's hard to remove, tap the shield with a plastic hammer. Remove outer snap ring on compressor side by using snap ring pliers. Remove floating journal bearing on compressor side and check its surfaces. Mark an identification mark and insertion direction on the bearing. Remove